good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and also good night for a few of there. Uh, we are going to discuss today about an important uh, the piece of topic that plays a big role in our daily lives, starting from household to relationships to career to anything you take, even between you and your children also, and between spouses and many things. It is the effective communication. And the effective communication wise, in this century, effective communication plays a big role. And it has been extended to all parts of our technology here, not only from face to face, but also on telephone, emails, messages. Everything matters. Communication, language matters. The way we present it matters. And the way we communicate with each other. Now, we always think about communication as maybe two-way communication, but it is more than that. It's more than that because it requires a lot of skills to develop effective communication. And if you have effective communication, you will get better results, the best results of what you can from anything you want, right from your career to in the family, between relatives, brothers, sisters, uh, spouses. So we are going to start the talk without wasting much time. So Miriam is going to talk about what is effective communication, and Angel will start how to develop it, and I will conclude how to implement it in daily life. Now I'll hand over the floor to Angel. I'm sorry, to Miriam, and from there we'll go to Angel. Okay, Miriam.
Okay, thank you, Sam. It was a good
Yeah.
presentation. I believe everyone have sometime in their life feel misunderstood. And what is effective communication? It's much more to feel understanding, to trust someone. And when you meet someone, you need to meet this person with respect, find a collaboration with this, and that means to meet in the same kind of level. So when you meet this person, you need to see, how do this person meet you? Which kind of language do you use? Which kind of body language do you have? And how do you see you? And is that a person you can feel that you have respect for, someone who can see you for the person you are? It's why it's so important to find a way, how can you communicate with this person, can feel that you are on the same kind of level, because it's so easy to feel misunderstood. Everyone will have a normal relationship, sometimes feel that you try your best to be the best person for your partner, but this partner can't see you for the person you are. Or in the workplace you work, when you can feel that you want to say something or be something, but the colleague don't understand what you mean because you don't have the same kind of communication. And how can we create a foundation where we can meet each other, where we can see what they mean behind the word you speak? And that's why it's so important to trust the person, that you have a pure heart when a person you see in front of you. You want your best and try your best to communicate in a way that he understands what you mean in all aspects of life. It doesn't matter the word you say in detail, but much more the meaning behind, that you communicate with yourself. It was a time when I, for example, been in Bali and I get sick. And in Bali, on this time, they couldn't so much English. And I'm Norwegian, so I'm not so good in English either. And I need to have this medical care. And the only way I could use was my body language. And at this moment, I really feel how important it is to have a body with also have the same intention like the word, to speak in a level that everything's connected, because that feels trust. The person around you will trust you, that you have a pure heart and a good intention with that you say. And so that is so important, also listen activity. What is person telling you? What's the meaning behind? And how can you find a solution for the you are so you can create something together? And to see the person is saying that they want you well, they want to help you, instead to see that you need to have something concurrence with this person, it's much better to see how can you benefit each other and how can you meet each other and how can you listen to this person. And even in a relationship, how can you really try to understand your partner on a deeper level? Because when you're looking, for example, female and male, we have different kind of language, we speak on different kind of ways. It's so important to understand the reason why we do that and how can we communicate in the same and deeper understanding for each other. We can accept our differences on a better level. That's why we need to have a constructive feedback to each other, be really clear what we want and create. Do you really understand what I mean? What it is you say, what do you want to say him or her? Have a clear communication. Don't complicate things, and really and try to do the thing with your best intention. So listen actively to the partner. Look at for the body language, how it's saying and setting around you, and also to just listen for the word as well. What the reason why he say or they say that they do, and how can you understand it much more deeply, and how can you create bridge between with the person you are. So try to look for the body language. Try to look for the eye contact. Is it really clear? How do he look at you? Do they understand what you say? And how do this person feel around you? Do you feel safe? Because everything in communication is about trust. To feel safe, to create communication between, create bridge, we can feel, create understanding between each other. So trust and collaboration is so important in all kind of communication. So good communication is much more about a deep connection between you, and reduce conflict and create a sense of closeness and trust. So it's much more to see how can you become the best version of yourself, and how can you learn to use your body in line with the person you want to be, in line with the message you have. So try to see how you say thing and how they look at you, and with how you can be this kind of communication between all of you. So it's much more to just create a space where you can have clear feedback, they can create trust, we can feel that it's open, it's good enough to have different kind of meanings as well, different kind of opinion, and it must be in a place we can feel it is safe, because everything needs to be in a place we can be safe, is that in your partner, on your workplace, or in cooperation. So create a place built on respect and on the feedback was easy to access. So try to be as clear you can in all aspects with them you meet, because that will really help you to don't end up in misunderstanding. So many times it's not, it's mostly of all these relationships we have today when it doesn't work is because they don't understand each other. They don't have this kind of trust. They have some kind of belief system instead to see if that is reality, and instead to ask each other, what do you really mean in this situation? They just trust themselves instead to ask and be clear, how can I create a connection with in line with the person and the meaning I want to say? And how can I create a foundation with built on good things? And how can my body tone, my intention, and body language be in line with the person I want to be for these people I want to help? If that is in your partnership or in your family setting, on your work fellow, on your client, whatever, try to be and create bridge and how you can create on a good level, because it will really help you when you actively listen to each other and you have a foundation built on love, much more when based on value, on your value, and accept the difference as well. Because we don't need to be agree with everything, but it's so much important to listen to each other, learn to take one step at a time and just be there for each other with open mind.
Beautifully explained, Miriam.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, as Miriam said, It's not an easy thing to do. Developing effective communication, it's an entire process. It needs time and it needs resilience. So thank you very much, Miriam. It was a great presentation on what is effective communication. I will begin now with how to develop effective communication. Developing effective communication, it's a very important factor in our daily life. It is actually more like a skill that improves your relationships. It creates a team, it builds leaders, and even builds your self-confidence. But first, we need to take it step by step. So I will begin. First thing in developing creative, effective communication, you need to active listening. So by active listening, you pay attention fully instead of planning your response while the other person speaks. So you need to let the other person speak his mind before you interrupt him. So pay attention fully until the person finishes his sentence before you begin to speak. Show you're actually listening with nods or small verbal cues. You can use words like I see, right, and or you can summarize what they said. This way you show that you are actually active, listen to what they are saying. Another important factor is to avoid interrupting unless necessary. We often interrupt other people in order for us to say our point of view, but that is not actually a good effective communication. A good effective communication is to avoid interrupting the other person and leave the other person finish his sentence and his mind. Another factor in order to create effective communication is to create clarity and simplicity in talking. You need to use simple, clear language instead of complicated words and terms. If you create an explanation with complicated words and terms, you're only gonna make the other person not understand you fully what you are trying to say and won't create that particular connection between the each and every one of us. So the second thing is to structure your ideas logically. You don't start with the ending and then you go with the starting point. You need to have a structure. You need to start with the beginning, with the middle, and finish with the conclusion. Your sentences also needs to be concise. So keep the sentences concise as possible. Non-verbal communication is also a crucial factor in developing effective communication. You need to mirror the other person's energy. In NLP, we learn how to mirror the other person's energy without mimicking, because if we mimic the other person, it may feel offensive. In order to build a report, we need to create that mirror of the other person's energy. Also, maintain open the body language. We need to constantly have eye contact with the other person to show him that we are there when they are talking. Our posture needs to be relaxed. We don't need to be cringed or in defense mode. And we need to use appropriate gestures in order to create that effective communication. Be aware also of the facial expression and tone of voice. Try to accompany the other person's tone of voice with yours so you can create a balance. The tone of voice and the expressions, actually, they carry more meaning than the word itself. So you can actually see the other person, how they feel when they are talking. If they feel nervous or they feel or they are in a good mood, you can actually feel it by their expression and their tone of voice. Also, you need to be empathic in order to create effective communication. You need to try to understand the other person's perspective before you go to a conclusion. we seldomly go to a conclusion, we draw a conclusion before we completely understand the other person talking and what he actually means. We need to acknowledge the feelings. We need to understand what they're actually saying. You can use phrases like, I understand this is frustrating for you, but we need to do this. You need to adapt your communication style to the person and the situation. Another way to create effective communication is to ask questions. Clarifying questions can actually help you understand better what the other person is trying to say and can actually prevent misunderstandings. You can use phrases like, do you mean this and this and this? Or did you say this and this and this? So actually involve the other person and to start a conversation and keep the conversation flowing, okay? By asking questions. Also open-ended questions by asking the other person like questions like, what do you think we should do in this kind of situation? So encourage the dialogue between one person and the other. Feedback also, it's a very important factor. Giving constructive feedback is actually helping to create effective communication. In giving constructive feedback, you need to be specific. You need to focus on behavior, not personality, and suggest improvements when you are giving your feedback. Also, in the same time, when you are receiving feedback from the other person, you need to receive the feedback gracefully without becoming defensive. We seldomly draw a conclusion that is not actually what the other person is trying to say, and then we become defensive, trying to defend ourselves, when there is, most of the time, is not actually the case. So we need to receive the feedback gracefully without becoming defensive. Adaptability is also a crucial factor in developing effective communication. We need to adjust the communication based on the context, formal versus informal. For example, formally, if we are talking with our boss, our employee, or if we are actually trying to sell something to a company or another person, we need to talk more formally. And we can talk informally if we are talking with a colleague, for example. Also, we need to take in consideration the cultural differences, because nowadays we talk a lot on internet with different people in our jobs and everything. So we need to take in consideration the cultural differences. We need to take in consideration that they may be having a different religion, or they may come from a different part of the world where their customs are different than ours. Also, another thing is to take in consideration the audience size. We need to take in consideration the age of each person. We need to talk with a person which is 20 in one particular way, and we need to talk with a person which is, I don't know, 45 differently, because the ages change from 10 years to 10 years, they become different. So also use examples. When you are creating this effective communication, use examples, visual examples, and stories to make your message more relatable. You need to create a picture in the other person's mind to understand what you are trying to say. Practicing confidence, it's also an important thing in developing effective communication. You need to speak with a steady tone, moderate pace, and a good volume. You need to avoid filler words like, you know, pause instead and correct yourself so you can actually avoid these filler words. Presentation reduces nervousness in important conversation. Preparation reduces nervousness in important conversation. Also, don't forget that this entire effective communication is an entire process. It's a continuous improvement. So it's not something done overnight. You need to constantly review and reassess and give it another shot if it didn't go well at the first sight. So observe great communicators like speakers or leaders or even your colleagues. When they first start to speak in a conversation, they weren't that great. But from one year to the next, you can actually see a huge difference. So as there is a saying, Rome wasn't built overnight. So the same thing here. You don't learn effective communication in 1 hour. You need to be resilient and to go through the process over and over again. So practice through group discussions, presentation, or even journaling. Also reflect after a conversation. Ask yourself what went well and what could be avoided in the future in order to do it better. So thank you very much. I leave it now to Sam with conclusion how to implement effective communication in our daily life. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vinjal, and thank you, Miriam. Those are good talks. I loved it. Yeah. Um, there's I know that there's a lot of overlapping with because the topic is in such a way that everything is intertwined. It's not that we can pull them apart. That is, what is it, and how to develop it, and how to use it. It'll be intertwined, but the message we want to give to everybody is how to develop the communication, how to communicate in your everyday lives. That's the message we are trying to give. And I'm going to talk a couple of things mm, because this has not been covered. The communication needs a transmitter, a receiver. And what the transmitter does is he converts his thoughts into words. And so he codes the thoughts into words and communicates to the receiver. The receiver, he receives the words and he decodes it in his brain. Now, you can now imagine what can go wrong. The thoughts can be wrongly communicated, it can be wrongly received, it can be wrongly decoded, or it could be the other way around. So it needs both the parties. And as the Miriam and Angela have talked about how we understand and about the feedback. The feedback is you can call any of the insurance companies or your doctor's office and ask them. They will give you some information, and then they will say, "Can you repeat back what I told you?" That's the feedback we need. And when we do a call also, and when we give our phone number also, we tell them, "Can you repeat back to me?" Or if receiver is really bright, he will say, "I won't repeat back the number to you. Is it okay to do that?" So this is what is the basis of communication in everyday lives. And that's perfect because the misunderstandings happen everywhere in communication. But there is a golden rule. It goes across all the channels. Seek first to be understood. Seek first to be understood. Then you can be understood because you need to first give them an idea of what you're talking about. When we say an idea, it comes from the word ideation. Ideation comes from the word, again, the thoughtfulness. So our thoughts are converted into words, we code it. The receiver gets it, he decodes it. And then he tells, is the decoding correct? In that way, the communication goes very well. As he has already mentioned, Angel has mentioned, I think, that's uh, the visual communication is much better. So I just wanted to follow that. I have some visuals I can share. So let me do the Canva. So as I told you at the beginning of this talk, now the communication is really an intricately complex communication is what we have in the modern life. face to face, telephone, messaging, email interactions with simple habits and actionable tips. That's what I'm going to talk about. Have a very short presentation because I believe the pictures they speak more than the words. So and face-to-face communication. Oh no, wait a minute, because no, this is jumping again. I'm sorry. Okay, let's go with this. So let's take first what is face-to-face communication. This has already been talked about. That is fully present, active listening, and I. That is instead of you're not listening to me, I feel unheard. In other words, and mirroring matching. These are also being talked about. But more importantly, let's do the telephone communication. Uh, how many of us are really understood by the opposite party? We speak to you on phone because the telephones are not yet gone; they are still there. You can talk from your tablet. You can have a talk with your the cell phone, which has been becoming increasingly more complex now. Uh, so how do you do that? No, that's the telephone communication. Also, when you talk, it's not that when you meet somebody, you got to smile. When you talk with a smile on telephone, how it changes, you will know because the opposite party will automatically know the way you are presenting yourself on the phone and then friendly manner, how is your day going, tone and pausing. This has been emphasized by both of my colleagues, but pausing is more important for us because you can match the tone, that's good. But when you pause, what are you doing there? You are allowing the opposite party to pick up the message, what you gave them, interpret it in the brain. Brains are not so fast to interpret messages. It has got to take the message. And again, when a brain takes a message, it will try to distort it. It may try to delete it. It may generalize it. NLP principles. So again, so give them time to pick the threads, to understand what you said and what you want them to understand, in which way you want them to understand it, and clarify frequently. It was also emphasized. So active listening again, even without the visual cues, you got to be very actively listening on a telephone. And the messaging, WhatsApp, chat, text, or whatever, mind your language. Mind the words you're putting in, no uppercase. If you put an apostrophe, if you put a question mark, all those are the communication that says that you are not, uh, maybe you are angry or you want to express something which you have not been heard before, and all these things will happen. And the third one is very important. Everybody should know this because this is very important. Acknowledge promptly. If somebody messages you, if somebody sends an email to you, don't don't keep that for a long time without answering. That answers only a few things. Either you don't like them, or there is a resistance in your body that is stopping you from doing that, or you don't want to communicate. And there are many more things. I don't want to jump into that. That's a whole topic over there. But always acknowledge. If you cannot do anything, just say, got it. I'll head back to you shortly if you don't want to do anything. And don't be sarcastic in your text because I took this only because it plays a big role in our lives right now is we all text and we all text in a way most of the time it will be quite good, but sometimes it will be sarcastic. And this sarcasm is not a good thing and it can create the misunderstanding in your life. And email communication, be professional. when you communicate. Professional yet presentable tone. That's what I would say. You got to be professional, not too friendly. If your wife, children, that's fine. Close friends, that's fine. But when you're communicating to somebody else, you got to make sure and use the conversational yet a respective tone and structure clearly, as it has been already mentioned. But here, I just want to put a short words like put short paragraphs, bullet points, headings, if necessary. That improves your communication because if you put the bullet points, the reader, I will catch the bullet points first, and they know what is exactly you want in that message to be conveyed. And keep the main message early in the email. When you do the email, avoid burying the lead. Don't start about introducing yourself and everything at last, the last paragraph, what you want them to exactly know and why you're sending the email. And end with a call to action or clear closing. So always have it like the best regards, or looking forward to your reply, and always recheck your email before sending. There might be some mistakes, and now people they cut and paste also. When they do that, they may be doing the wrong stuff. It may not be pasted in the proper way. It may be garbled. So how to implement in daily life is pretty important. And relationship communication, this is very important. uh, the key principle here is it's not about being right, it's about being connected. That's very important. And I do coach in this. So I just wanted to let everybody know I do relationship coaching, I do relationship communication, and also we have many more things to this. And it is beyond the scope of the topic what we are talking right now. But the final message with this communication is communicate clearly, communicate in a good way. And it was emphasized by my colleagues about mirroring and matching, but I call them as the pacing and leading. Pacing is that what they are, when you meet them, you pace with them. And other caveat is that we talked about the verbal communication and the non-verbal communication. When you go to the non-verbal communication, that is the body language. Remember, body language is the language of your subconscious mind. If you are communicating with a person and you want to be really understood, match their subconscious movements with your movements. You should not exactly mirror because if they put the left hand, don't put right away the left hand on your cheek. No, if they put the right hand on their cheek, so you wait for a few seconds and then slowly you put this way, or maybe you can also put the left hand. So that in that way, what happens is the subconscious mind will pick up. And what happens when both subconscious minds are in a unison? That's called the trust. And it plays a very important role. And here now it's in anything, in coaching, in mentoring, or in hypnosis, hypnotherapy. It's very important to build a rapport, as it has been already mentioned as an NLP technique. Uh, they say NLP technique, but rapport has been existing from a long time. Actually, rapport is a French word. It's been existing from a long time. And the rapport is the basis for all communications. And the mirroring and matching, you said, it should be, in other words, also called as the pacing and leading. You pace their the subconscious actions with your subconscious actions. You match their subconscious actions. That is the most important part of it. That plays a very big part. And once two subconscious minds they go together, they match, then it creates a trust. And trust is everything, has been emphasized by the Miriam. So uh, keep communication simple. Two, when you want to communicate in a proper manner, because there is no yes or no in this, okay? Because everybody communicates a different way. But if you are misunderstood by opposite party, then you are wrong. Your communication is completely wrong. If they misunderstand you, then also you may be wrong. It's not that you are right and they are wrong. No, that may not be right. Again, you got to think about those things. And communication, as you know, that we humans are in this stage only because of communication. So this is the evidence-based techniques. Active listening validation is backed by Gottman, who wrote a big book on active listening and the validation. And then emotional regulation, repair atoms. If somebody is interested, you can read these books. They are really good. And the imagotherapy, this is by Hendrickson and Erickson. They are both NLP people over there again, and nonviolent language patterns. This is a good book if you can read, because nonviolent language is very important. The way we use our words, it is called the tongue fu. In other words, it is like a kung fu, but it's a tongue fu with your tongue, how you do it, and the conversational hypnosis that you don't need anyway, and influence and the psychological priming. That's a lovely book by the Saldini. If you want, you can read that. All these are the things which I would say will be a treasure to your library if you want to do it. Anyway, it's going to be on the screen. So we're on Facebook, and we are going to conclude here today's meeting about communication. And we will be meeting you back next week or so with a new topic. We would like to make it interesting to everybody around us, because it's just the knowledge sharing. If you share your knowledge, you are really doing a good thing to the whole community. That's important, because I believe that way. And knowledge not shared is useless. It's a waste. We are going to leave this place one day, and you want to leave without telling others what you learned, without relating to others what they could learn from you. So that's the basis of my talk. Thank you anyway for listening to me patiently. Thank you.
Thank you. This was
Thank you,
lovely.
everyone.
Both enjoyed them. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thanks.